What's up everyone, Steven here with techmaker.tv. In this episode, we're going to go ahead and finish setting up the authentication system that we started building in the last episode for our Aleph chat. In the last episode, we had set up Express and Mongo and set up a few routes. And basically we have our server listening, and we can go over here to Chrome, and I think it's localhost 3000. Let me go back and check really quick. It's localhost, sorry, using a mouse that I don't normally use, and it's really jumpy. Where are we at? The port is 3000, and then we've got a route for user's username. So we should be able to just go to 3000 and get our hello world, and we can go to users, and then I think it's Jim Bob is one of our users, and get that user printing out. So in this episode, what we're going to do is basically get it set up so that you can register and sign in with a username, and then we'll have some restricted access to various endpoints. Now this is not necessarily going to be things that we're going to keep around. We won't actually have a user's endpoint that returns back a password, but it will essentially allow us to verify that our authentication system is working. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get started. So the very first thing I'm going to do is actually just type in a bunch of boilerplate stuff, and I'm going to pause the video and then talk through it because it's all very boring. It's all related to Express and Passport, and I'll explain what it all is once I put it in here. I'm going to go ahead and close the server so that I can show you the whole frame once I'm done. Okay, so I think I've got everything set up the way that we need it. So let's talk through this really quickly. So the very first thing you're going to want to do is run this Npm Install here with several different pieces of middleware, body parser, which basically lets us pull the request body out of a post request, which we'll need for login, the Express session, which helps us with keeping track of who's logged in, and then Passport, which is an authentication library, a particular adapter, I believe, for Mongoose, and then another middleware for login logic. So I'm not a Node expert, so I don't know how to explain every single bit of this, but let's try to talk through it. But this is why I prefer Rails typically, because all this is handled for you and you don't have to really think about it. But in any case, let's just kind of talk through what you need here. You can copy it down. We'll make sure it all works, and then we'll move on to the actual logic. So again, I'm going to kind of fly through this, but this first section here is all of my various imports. I'm just bringing in all the libraries that I added. The one kind of odd duck is this require express session, which has some initialization that we pass in. The only thing here that's sort of interesting is the secret key. So that's probably something you would throw in an environment variable for production. Then we basically come down here and tell it how to use all the various things. Again, I'm going to let you kind of read up on what each of these are doing. This is all sort of middleware configuration, so not exactly my specialty. We did the Mongoose Connect last time, so we saw how all that works. The one interesting thing here that we're doing now, instead of just straight up creating the user, is we've got some back and forth between the Mongoose Mongo model that we set up and the Passport strategy, basically. So at the end of the day, what all this configuration does for us is, instead of here where we're saying user.create, we'll have something like user.register, and that is going to take in, how does that set up? It's like, I think it's an object username, and then we'll have whatever, and then we'll have something like that, and then we just pass in the password at the end, and this is actually coming from Passport. So it's something like that. We'll get to that in just a second. But that's sort of logic that we get because we are tying these things together up here. And again, this is not my deal, so let's move on to the actual fun stuff past all of this. So first of all, let's actually save all of this. Let us open up our terminal again, and then let's npm start and just make sure it doesn't blow up. And it does. So let's just cannot read property use of undefined. on line 17. What did I do? App.use. Oh, it's because that's cool. Let me move this up above. That's an obvious mistake here. So we'll define the app before we start trying to call methods on it. So let's save that. And let's see. Okay, so it looks kind of like we're running. Let's come back over here and refresh and just see. Okay, so everything is not broken. We don't know that it's actually all working yet either, but let's go ahead and see if we can get it to work. All right, so the very first thing I want to do is basically take this page and restrict access to it with some of the stuff we just set up. So we're going to kind of work backwards, restrict the pages, and then build out the sign in once we verify that all of that's set up correctly. So what we can do is come down here to our get user's username, and that connect ensure login basically is a bit of middleware that we can insert right here. So we'll say instead of just straight up processing the request, we'll say connect ensure login dot ensure logged in, which is just a function with no arguments like that, and that's basically all it is. So we can save that, and then if it works, let's go see what it does if I try to refresh here. So basically it's just redirecting me to a path called login. So that's obviously something that's just in that tool, that's in this code base somewhere. It's hard coded, I guess, inside of connect ensure login, and they're assuming that you have a route called login. And so what we can do is above we can say app.get slash login, and then that's just going to have the request and response, and then we can actually just res.send login here. So now let's go back and let's see if we can do, let's try that again, users Jimbob, and then we get login here as a message. So what I want to do is actually set this up so we're not just sending text back to the browser. I'm going to make sure that it's an actual HTML document. And in order to do that, I've got to come up here to our app, and I want to basically tell it, first of all, hey, this is where you should pull files from. And to do that, basically we're going to say app.use, and again, this is all middleware express configuration stuff that we have to do. So we'll say static, and then there's a special keyword underscore dir name, and that basically just tells it whatever the current directory is, use that to pull files from. And what we're going to do is set up a new folder inside of our app here, and I'm going to call it views because I'm a Rails guy and I kind of like the word views for templates or whatever. So and we will call our first one, let's just say login.html, like that. And I think we can do HTML. Is there more you can do with that? Let's see. I'm just wondering if I can auto-complete that more. Yeah, there we go. That's cool. So in here, I'm just going to say h1, and then I'm going to say login. And then back in my index.js, all I need to do is render that file. So to do that, we just come down here to our login, and instead of send, we're going to say res.send file, like that. And that just takes it takes two things. So we need to give it the path, and we need to say views login.html, and then we need to specify the root is dir name, like that. So now let's go back over here and refresh this, and now we have our HTML document. Okay, so let's go back and let's actually set up the same kind of deal for the root path here, and I'm going to say index. Once we set that up, obviously we'll need to create that page, so I'm going to create a new file in the views here, index.html, and I'm just going to copy all of this and paste it here and say you are logged in, Let's go back over to the browser and get our app to lie to us. You are logged in. Obviously, we're not. So what I want to do is just come back and grab our connect ensure logged in. Paste that there. Connect ensure login, excuse me. So we'll save that, and then we'll come back and we'll refresh. And now if we try to go the root path, it's going to force us to try to log in. So let's set that up. All right, so if we pop back over into the code, I want to do one thing really quick, and let's go ahead and see if we can register a user. And let's create a user, let's say Jackson, and I think we have to give this another flag here, active false. Not 100% sure what that does, to be honest, but it's just in the examples that I've seen, so I'll look it up later and report back. And then password is fine, I guess. Okay, so now we should be able to set up login because it's reloaded this a couple of times now, so I think it probably inserted that user. So let me go ahead and comment out that now, and let's see if we can actually set up a login over here on our login view. So the connect ensure login, I believe, will automatically set up some routes for us. So what we can do is say form action equals /login, and then we'll say method equals post. Okay, and then all we need to do here is say input type is text, and then we'll say name equals username, and then I'm gonna just say placeholder, enter your username, like that. And then we need to say input type is password, and then we'll just say name equals password, and then placeholder, enter your password, like that. And the next thing we need to do, and I guess we need to put, this is gonna be pretty ugly for now. We're not doing anything with styling at the moment. So we'll just say input type equals, just kind of looking at my automatic stuff I can do here. So save, no, that's not right, login. Okay, so let's go refresh our login and see what it looks like here. Okay, cool. So now we have a little login form. It's trying to prompt me with fake accounts from other apps I've worked on. So if we go back, actually, I think I want to try this and see what happens. I know we're not finished setting all this up yet, but let's just see what happens if we just try it. Jackson password cannot post to the login. So basically, I like this follow the error thing, and just try whatever you built, then let it tell you what you're doing wrong. Okay, so let's come over here and let's make a new route for post on login. So what we're going to do is say app.post, and again it's /login, and the second argument is actually the middleware for authentication. So we're going to say passport.authenticate, and then we're going to give it the local strategy, and which I think is short for basically saying like username and password as opposed to like using some kind of social login or something. Okay, and I've got an extra parenthesis here somewhere. I think that goes after the local there. Okay, so basically it's going to catch the post request to the login here, and then it's going to run it through the passport, and then basically what I want to do is say response.redirect to / or the home page index, basically, if we're successful. So let's go try this out and just see if it works. So if I go over here and I just refresh on login, and I do Jackson password, and we click login, let's see what happens. So you are logged in. And so now if I visit the home page, I'm logged in. So let's come over here and I'm going to open up my server again. So now we have login working. Let me see if I restart my server and start it back up. Am I still logged in? I don't think so. Yeah, so now I'm logged out. So, okay, that's how we can log in and log out until we actually build a logout. Okay, so the next and last thing I want to do is set up a registration. And so now that we have login, register should be pretty basic. So if we, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and just bring this down. I'm going to do a get. I'm going to copy this. And we're going to say a register here. And we're going to render the view of register. And I don't exactly know everything about how to do this, but let's just try. So we'll say new file register.html. I'm going to copy the login here. And I'm just going to make this register. I'm going to make this action register. Okay, and let me look for a second, see if I remember exactly how I need to do this. Well, first of all, let's just check that we can see our register screen here. Okay, cool. So that's there. And basically what we want to do is, well, let's see. So if we do app.post, and I may have to revamp this later. I'm kind of just making this up as I'm going right now based on what I think I'm seeing here. As you may have guessed, I'm really not a Node expert yet, but we'll see what happens by the end of this series. So inside of here, let's see. So what I would like to do is something like const user equals and user.register, and I would like to say username, and then something like request.params.username. I don't know if that's a thing, so we're gonna check it out. And then maybe active should be true here. Totally guessing based on what it seems like. And then the next argument would be request.params.password. Okay, so let's see. What do I need to do here? I want a console.log request, and then I just want a console.log the request. And then if we get here, I want a console, not that. I want a console.log the user. Okay, so let's save that. Nothing crashed, so that's a good start. Okay, let's refresh over here, and let's do Patty. And when I'm testing, I always just type password, so I don't have to think about it. Request is not defined. Did I type the word request or something? Yeah, I did. Request. Okay, let's go back, and then we'll say password. And let's see what that did. Something broke somewhere. No username was given. So I've got request body and password. So let's change that from params to body. Request.body.username and body.password. And let's refresh, and we'll do Patty again and password. And it's probably going to, well, let's see what it does. Okay, so basically it looks like the user at that point is actually a promise. So maybe I can do await user.register. Something like that. App crashed. Waiting for file. Probably don't have something I need to do. Await. Maybe we can do dot then user. I actually don't know what that returns. So let's see. So Patty1 and password. User is not defined. Huh, okay. So I looked through the documentation a little bit, and it looks like we're doing a couple of things kind of screwy here. So this functionality comes from that passport-local-mongoose library that we brought in. So we don't want that to be true. I still don't know exactly what it does, but we don't want it to be true. Sorry, let's actually make this a little bit bigger. Based on the example that I saw. Okay, so in this we don't want to use... Oh, I see why that's throwing an error, because user is not defined here. Okay, so that's an issue. This was returning some kind of promise, but it looks like in the documentation you need to provide this in a callback. So it takes an error and then a user, and let's give that an arrow and a function here. And let's do something like console.log user. So we're just trying to take this step by step as much as possible. And let's see if I get the same kind of error here. So Thomas and password log in. And do we get something logged out here? It looks like I did. So you can see here that I have the request, which I logged out, and then I've got this ID, username is Thomas, salt, and then a hash. So you can see we're definitely not storing the password in its raw form anymore, which is great. Okay, so what we should be able to do, so that's Thomas, and I entered a password of password, and this is stuck because it doesn't give it any instructions on what to do. So we should be able to go to the login and not be logged in because we didn't actually log the person in. We just submitted them to the database. So let's try to submit the login form here and see what happens. So that person was inserted. So the last thing I want to do is make it so that whenever someone registers, they're automatically logged in. So we don't have to do it separately, obviously. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of these console logs real quick. And inside of this callback here, what we're going to basically do is just use the passport authenticate method again. And so what we're going to do is say passport.authenticate. And inside of here, we're going to say local, just like above, to tell it which strategy to use. And basically what we want to do is make this a, call another function on this. We're going to say request, response, and then give this a callback. And then inside of here, we will res.redirect to the root path. Okay, so basically I think this is going to return the strategy, and then this is the execution of that strategy, what happens. Essentially, something like that. So let's go try this. Let's refresh here. So we gotta go to register, register, and then let's make this Patrick, and enter a password here, and we are logged in. So that's pretty much it for this episode. Not the most exciting stuff, but definitely needed to get this all going so that we have kind of a foundation for the app. In the next episode, we're going to hook in the Aleph part of the authentication. So once somebody registers, we're going to create an Ethereum account for them and store all of that stuff inside of our database. And that's going to make it so that we can actually create messages and post them to the Aleph network and sign them on behalf of the user. And again, this is something that probably is not a design decision you would make in a real production app. This is just something I'm doing to kind of explore how this works and build out an idea. And once I get a little bit better grip on how the whole process works, maybe we'll come up with a different design and do something more in-depth in the future or something kind of different. So In any case, if you made it all the way to this point, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.